Hi guys! So it's my day off, but it's raining again, and I wish I could be outside with my horses or go on a walk, but that's kind of not an option right now because it's pouring. Um, I am planning on going to my parents later, but like I have stuff to do around my apartment, waiting for laundry to dry, that kind of thing. So I'm kind of bored, but kind of also just like motivated. And in the shower, I was just like, oh, I could make a video. And then I was like, well, what should I make it about? Because like I could sit here and ramble like forever, but like I don't know. I need something specific or I'll just go off on tangents. Of course, I'm gonna get distracted by my hair because it's like super frizzy and weird, and the ends are kind of dead, so they're not like curling properly. And I dried it a little too much, like towel dried it. Anyway, so yeah, there's that. But sorry, I'm sitting on a pillow, but like it's not high enough, and like I'm slouching because my back hurts because my whole body always hurts after work, like a week of work. It's a rough, it's a rough kind of job. I'm on my feet moving around all day. But anyway, I had thought of a specific topic. It's not actually like specifically mental health or mental illness, but it has definitely affected my mental health, so I feel like it's kind of important. Um, and it's been on my mind because yesterday was not yesterday, the day before. What's today? I don't even know the date. I think it's the 29th. So the 27th of March is always just a really hard day for me. And I wanted to talk about that and just kind of not vent, but talk about something that's important to me. So I consider March 27th to be kind of a trauma anniversary, and like I use that in my mind, and I've said that before, but I never specifically say why or what it was that was traumatic. And I wanted to talk about that because it's something that I've always felt kind of invalidated about, like just invalidated by myself. And when I was a kid, I was kind of invalidated about it, though now it's not as bad, I guess. I'm surrounded by people that actually kind of understand, or at least care about me enough to, let me have my emotions around it. And there are a lot of emotions around this topic. So when I was 14, 2010, my childhood cat passed away. And I've lost other animals, mostly smaller animals, but it affected me a lot. And this is where I feel like I can't, or I shouldn't talk about it, because it's like, it's not a big deal. And that's what I was told when I was a kid. Like, it's just a cat, get over it. Like, why are you upset? Why are you, so attached to this animal? It's just an animal. But animals are really important to me, and I think they are to a lot of people. So I wanted to talk about it. But backstory with this cat, we got her when I was 4. And I'm the oldest, and it was right before my younger sister was born, or my youngest sister was born. And she was the kind of cat that, she was an indoor-outdoor cat. She wasn't around a lot, and she wasn't very friendly. Like, she wasn't affectionate, and she actually was kind of, I guess, mean, but like, or aggressive, but it was because like she didn't like people, and like my little sister would get grounded from touching her because she would scratch her. Because like she was the kind of cat that didn't take any crap from anyone. She would stand up for herself and kind of attack you if you bothered her. But over the years, like she got really attached to me, and she was the kind of cat that I would call a one-person cat, where they're very different with their human than with other people. So my family didn't care about her that much. They had originally got her for kind of a mouse control thing. Like, my parents aren't really animal people, but they had gotten this cat. A friend of theirs had had kittens, and they just got her. Her name was Annika, which is funny because it was right before my sister was born. So my mom was pregnant and she was having a hard time picking baby names. And I guess Annika was one of the baby names, but they chose to name my sister something else and name the cat one of the baby names. And I love the name Annika now, and I called her Ani. So anyway, Ani was that just like standoffish kind of cat. But she became my cat. We moved when I think I was 8, and we brought her with us, and then she kind of became an indoor cat because our neighbor had 2 male cats that would kind of beat her up anytime she went outside. So at our house, like every once in a while at night, she would get kind of cuddly and she'd sit next to my mom or my sister on the couch. But otherwise, the only person that she really wanted to, get affection from was me. She would sleep in my room, on my bed all the time. She just stayed in my room at night with me unless she was hunting. And in the morning, she would scratch on the side of my mattress until I woke up because she wanted to go get fed. But we free fed her, so there was always food downstairs for her, but she wanted me to come down with her to have her breakfast. And I loved her, and growing up, I had a hard time relating to my peers. I had a hard time making friends. I was bullied a lot by people that were my friends. And I felt like she was my best friend. I could tell her anything. And another thing that really stood out to me was if I was upset, if I was crying, or she had heard me getting yelling with my parents, when I came up to my room, normally she'd just sleep, and maybe I'd go over and say hi to her, and she'd wake up a little bit, but she wouldn't really move. She wouldn't really, interact with me. It was daytime. She was taking her naps. But if I was upset, she would get up and come sit next to me and rub on me and want me to pet her. So that was always really special to me. So anyway, I was really attached to her, and when she was 10 years old, my sisters begged and begged for another cat because they didn't really like Ani. My family didn't really care about her. They didn't think she was very affectionate or a good cat. So my sisters begged and we got a kitten. And previously, a couple years before, we had fostered kittens that we had found on the side of the road. And we were maybe going to keep one, but she was really mean to it. She would attack it and try to kill it. And she was just very unhappy. So we had never considered getting another cat. But my sisters convinced my parents. And we got this cat. And Ani hated him. He wasn't allowed in my room because that was Ani's room, and he was terrified of her. And she just started spending more time in my room, and I was like, okay, it's just because of this kitten. But she was older. She was 10 years old, so she had kind of settled, so we kept the kitten. And then, so we got him in September or October, and in January, February, I don't remember exactly, she started just acting weird. She had licked all the fur off of her stomach and her back legs. She wasn't eating as much. She was just sleeping more. And she just was kind of not okay. And I pointed this out to my parents, but they're like, oh, she's just getting old. She's fine. And at that point, it was before I had worked at animal hospital or knew that much about animals. And I think now I would have been like, no, she needs to see a vet. And I would have bugged the heck out of them. But I was only 14. I didn't have money. I didn't have a car. I couldn't drive her to the vet. I had no control over that. And I begged and begged my parents. And I remember finally, I think they were on a trip or something, and she just wouldn't eat. And I could tell that maybe it was a little painful for her. She might have had some bad teeth in there, and she just wasn't eating, and she was just sleeping. And I remember calling them on the phone and crying to them and being like, she's not okay. We need to take her to the vet. And I think I finally broke through to them that it was serious, and I was very upset about it. So I specifically remember March 27th because my mom was like, okay, I'm going to take her to the vet. And it was a Saturday. And Saturdays I always went to the barn and did chores and had a riding lesson. And I still really wanted to do that. So I was kind of assuming, I think, that oh, she's going to take her to the vet, and I don't need to go with her. It's okay. My mom will take care of it, and she'll bring her back. But my mom had told me before I left for the barn, like, look, if there's a major issue, like, we're not going to pay for it. We're going to euthanize her. So I think I had that kind of in the back of my mind that that might happen. But I was just really hoping that it wouldn't happen. So I remember laying on the ground next to her in the living room and being like, goodbye, Ani, like, I love you. I don't think I really said goodbye, like, oh, I won't see you again. And I think I cried a little bit. Anyway, so I went to the barn, and after my riding lesson, my mom called, and she was like, look, Annika had kidney failure, and I decided to euthanize her, and she's gone. I'm bringing, her body back to bury her at home. And I just remember crying, and like I just broke down. I was like, okay. And I remember the horse I was riding and everything. It was just everything about that day stuck out to me. I went back to him and I just hugged him and loved on him. And then I went home and I wouldn't look at her body. I wouldn't touch it. I didn't want to see her dead because I just wanted to remember her being alive. And I felt very upset because I felt like if my parents had listened to me sooner, or if I had done more, then maybe she wouldn't have gotten as sick and we could have saved her. And I blamed myself for that. Looking back, it's like I was 14 and I tried my hardest to convince them, but they didn't listen. Like, that wasn't my fault. And we buried her, and I remember specifically, I think it was a day or two later, we buried her, and it was actually kind of rainy like it is today, gray skies. My dad dug a hole and then he brought her out, and I turned my back and wouldn't look until she was in the ground and he buried her. And then I just cried and cried. And after that, I'm trying not to get emotional. After that, I cried all the time for, now I'm gonna get emotional, for a month afterward. I cried myself to sleep every night, and I would come downstairs and tell my mom I can't sleep. And every time I went in my bedroom, I'd automatically look to the place she always slept on my bed, and then I'd start crying. And I was just so upset. And I ended up changing all the furniture in my room around so like it seemed different so I wouldn't remember her. And I was just so upset. I think the only thing that helped me with that was that Christmas, like 2-3 months before she died, I had gotten my miniature horse, and at least I had him. I had a pet to love, and at that time I really didn't like the kitten that we had. Now he's my baby, but I didn't really want to love on him. I mean, we had our dog, and I still would spend time with her, but I'm just glad I had my horse. Like, I would just go outside every day and be with him. So anyway, I had nightmares about her. Like, in my nightmares, she would be there, and I'd be like, I thought you were dead, and I'd be so happy, and then she'd get sick again, or something really bad would happen to her, and I would just feel that loss all over again. So it was really bad, and I was telling my parents this, but like I said, they were just like, it's a cat, like, it's not a big deal, like, well, why are you upset? She wasn't even a good cat. And so I just learned to suppress it. And what's interesting is I don't remember specifically, but when I started self-harming, I don't remember the first day that I did, but I remember that it was a dreary March day and it was raining and I was upset about something. I got home from school and I was just out in our garage and I started hurting myself. And it's interesting because it was almost exactly a year afterward. Sorry, my bedroom window is open and my cousin is outside walking the dog and it feels really awkward. So anyway, he let the dog out. I'm sorry, I got totally distracted by that, and he's gonna bring her back and it's gonna be really awkward. So anyway, I just suppressed all memories of her and kind of didn't think about it on the day she died or her birthday, which is in July. I just I wouldn't even think about it. And for years, that's how it went. And then I went to treatment when I was 20 years old, and I started talking about it in therapy about halfway through my stay there, and I got so upset and I started crying, and then every time I thought about it, I would pretty much have a panic attack. And like in family therapy, my dad brought it up accidentally, and I completely had a meltdown and had to go outside and calm down. Like I was just so upset, and it took a long time for me to be able to think about it and feel those emotions without getting overwhelmed and just feeling the need to push down those emotions with probably negative behaviors. And now I still get sad, I still get upset. I don't blame myself anymore. I did go through a period of being very angry at my parents, and then they kind of, they apologized, and I think they truly do feel really bad. And now, from then on, anytime I would have a concern about one of our pets, they took me seriously. And that kitten we got when he was 3, I think, he had a major block in his urinary tract, and I could just tell. At that point, I had been working at the animal hospital, and I knew something was very wrong. And I was like, you need to take him to the vet now. And my parents did, and the vet told us that, like, if I hadn't made them do it right then, he would have died. So I saved his life, seriously. And I feel like I've kind of saved my other pets' lives at different points when I've been like, no, this is serious. They have to go to the vet. And that cat also, at one point, he got out, and he was an indoor-only cat, and he disappeared for 2 days in the middle of winter. And we didn't think he'd come back. And that cat he's like a dog in a cat's body. He's the most affectionate, like, lovey. He greets you at the door. He just wants to sit on you. He loves everyone, and my family is obsessed with him. Even my dad, who really doesn't like animals, like, he's the baby of the family besides the dog. And they were so upset. And I remember I was very, very upset, obviously, but I had kind of this, I felt almost justified. And it's not that I'm glad it happened. Now looking back, I kind of am, because he was fine. He came back after 2 days, and he was completely fine. If he had just disappeared, I probably wouldn't have done this, but I told my family, my parents, I was like, now you know how I feel. Now you know how I feel when I lost Ani. Like, I cared about her like the rest of you care about Stormy. And you're all crying and upset, and that's how I felt. And that was the point where they were just like, we're so sorry. We're so sorry. Like, we didn't realize. And also from that point on with my family, anytime one of my pets has died, they've been very kind and loving and supportive and sensitive to that. And they tell me, like, we're so sorry. And they let me cry about it. And yeah, so this video is getting really long, and there is a whole nother story that has to do with March 27th that I want to talk about. So I think I'm going to cut it off here and then do part 2. But yeah, I'll do a part 2. So I'll be right back.